My name is Hannah Lippy. I graduated in 2002 from Prairie Hill. My teacher was Mrs. Gorel, and now I'm a social worker who lives in California.
My name is Brendan Ziegler. I am a graduate of 2001 class at Prairie Hill Waldorf School with Mrs. Link. I am currently living in Chicago, and I own a CrossFit gym in a nearby suburb.
I'm Ella Imes. I graduated in 2010 from Prairie Hill. My teacher was Betty Link. I'm studying Peace and Global Studies and Spanish at Alumni College in Indiana. And currently I'm in Spain doing study abroad.
My name is Kirk Cooper Johnson. I graduated from Prairie Hill in 2004. My teacher was Sheris Corby. I'm finishing up bachelor's in social work at New York University. I will be making my way uptown to Columbia University School of Social Work.
My name is Megan Cassidy. I graduated in 1998 from Prairie Hill in Thomas Romer's class, and I currently live in New York City and work as an author, publicist, and book consultant.
Hi, my name is Sam Castle, and I graduated in 2003 from Chris Kilmer's class, and I currently own an event company called 414 Events.
My name is Aaron Przigian, and I graduated from Prairie Hill in 1997. My teacher was Bente Goldstein, and currently I am a professor of education at Western Washington University.
My name is Kai Tsuyoshi. I graduated last year after being taught for 8 years by Mrs. Laux. My strongest memories would probably be the field trip, like the 8th grade trip and the 1st grade trip.
Each year had a specific field trip that you would go on, so everybody was always looking forward to the climbing trip and the caving trip in 6th grade, and they always ended up being the best experiences.
My strongest memories of my time at Prairie Hill are definitely all the activities that we did, starting with like recess twice a day, playing with the kids outside, whether it was nice or not out.
Also the handwork, my handwork experiences. I think working with my hands and learning how to make something, whether it was through actual handwork with Mrs. Imes, or it was through some of the block crayon coloring.
Doing clay work in the boiler room, to having Mrs. Imes take out all my knitting, to getting stuck in the marsh in the woods.
One thing that I remember very fondly is all the plays we were able to participate in.
We always did some sort of performance every year. 8th grade I was Atticus in To Kill a Mockingbird, and that was quite an experience.
That was not just sort of tacked on as a recreational activity, but that was part of our lesson. When we learned in Prairie Hill about the Greek mythology, we did a play on Dido and Aeneas, which is a Greek tragedy. So our plays were intertwined with what we were actually learning in the classroom.
Growing in friendships and in mastering different subjects, even if they weren't subjects that I thought I might want to master. Also just really being pushed in ways that only my teacher and my classmates could really do.
When Mr. Darian, when he was leaving on our last day and he was shaking my hand for the last time, he was telling me that I was a leader in the class, and that was the first time someone had ever told me that.
Remember fondly the time I spent with my classmates and my teacher, Mrs. Corby, who's definitely an inspiration to me, once in a lifetime kind of person.
I think my time at Prairie Hill influenced me in a number of ways. Being able to learn with my hands and learn through the actual experience of doing at Prairie Hill has informed how I like to do things today. How I teach learning as a professor has a lot to do with, sort of the action behind the knowing. So that working with your hands, doing things with your hands, experiencing things, role-playing. We didn't just learn about it and then move on to the next thing. We learned about something and then did it.
I was a very shy student, so it took me a little time to come out of my shell, but it allowed me to be a leader. I now own my own business, so I have to take charge in a lot of situations, and I have to go to networking events, which is difficult for me. Being in a Waldorf school allowed me to do that as an adult.
Yeah, it really helped my leadership skills, mostly because of team building activities we did in Prairie Hill.
I work as a book publicist, so I work with books that are going to be coming out 6 months or even a year from now. And it's almost like I'm still going through main lesson blocks with the day-to-day aspects of my job. I get to really immerse myself in new topics on a month-to-month basis and work really closely with the authors in crafting their message, whether it's taking on a project in an area that I don't know that much about, or taking a risk to move to a new city, as I've done a couple times.
My ability to adapt and tolerate nuance is only enhanced by being at Prairie Hill. I can see it reflected in the way I write. I still use cursive.
My artistic skills were brought out in Prairie Hill.
I think with its core around the strength of community and how each person has a role, I think that's affected me through high school, the choices I made and where I wanted to go down different paths in college and after college. So I think that core of community is sort of helped shape like my mission in life.
You know, being in a Waldorf school, like you have the same teacher, the same classmates all the time. So if you ever have a disagreement or something like that, you had to work through it. You weren't able to just avoid them and just ignore it. It's helped me be reflective on myself and what I'm doing and how what I say and what I do can impact other people.
Just being able to have conversations, I see this a lot of times with the other Waldorf kids too, is just being able to be open to kind of anything that a person throws at us and getting to create a space that allows others to feel open with us.
I've been really lucky to stay connected to Prairie Hill through my mom and her work there, through my younger siblings, and through some of my closest friends who I've known since I was a first and second grader there.
I'm very close with many of my classmates, and I still talk with my teacher, and I am involved with the other Waldorf school as well, Tamarack Waldorf School. I'm on the board over there. So the community, just in general, is very important.
I have met people that have been from other Waldorf schools, and it's kind of like this secret club in a way.
Every time I come home, every time I hang out with those particular classmates, we have like a little potluck. And one time, a couple years ago, I came back and we all decided to paint. And each one of us could pick out each of our paintings without looking at each other and seeing who painted which, because we've known each other that well, that we can even understand like, oh, that's Lauren's painting, or oh, that's Justin's. I have these awesome relationships, and how do I describe these people who like know my soul? How do you say that?
Attempting to stay connected with the community, because the farther I get away from it, I think the more my appreciation for it grows. There's a comfort in knowing someone who went to a Waldorf school that brings you together immediately, because there's this connection and this understanding of the world, I think, in a different way, even if someone was just at a Waldorf school for a year. And I think now my closest friends are Prairie Hill people.
I'm still in touch sporadically with just about everybody from my class, you know, whether it's through Facebook or you know, when I'm in town and they're in town and we get together at the Yuletide Fair. I think the community that Waldorf built in my class, you know, my brother's class, when I look at some of his friends, is very strong. And that community is one of those communities that will last forever.
Before I started my own business, I was in nonprofits, so I knew how important it was for schools, especially like Waldorf schools, for fund development. My Waldorf education in general influenced my career choices just by wanting to help increase the funds needed for whatever the goals were, because I think everyone gets together as a community and works together, and you see that just with Michaelmas, Yuletide Fair. That's the same in nonprofit, that everyone wants to work together to succeed in their goals.
I wanted to create. I wanted to build something of my own. I wanted to be able to express myself. Being able to create my own business now and my own culture and community, those are the things that I think are definitely part of that Prairie Hill education. Is there is kind of a culture and a community that you become accustomed to.
And I think 7th and 8th grade, I was in a social justice group at Prairie Hills, working with kind of bullying and trying to stop that in the younger grades. It was taking older students from the school to help build a stronger community in the lower grades. That kind of instilled this want to change the world in a way of trying to help people see the world through other people's eyes, the major I've chosen and the path like I hope to follow in the future has really stemmed from that caring and honest community that Prairie Hill always created.
Waldorf schools taught me the power of imagination. When you limit your imagination, you're limiting yourself, you're limiting your potential, you're limiting the types of choices that you'll make that could lead to these really wonderful, wonderful places. It's something that I value tremendously about my Waldorf education, that I was never taught to the test. Or a whole week's curriculum wasn't put on hold because a standardized test was happening on Monday. Seeing both ends of the spectrum and then being a teacher in that other setting reinforced the value of the education that I had received at Prairie.
I served in the Peace Corps for 3.5 years. And 2 of those years I was living in a rural village in Zambia. And I was the first American and first white person in the village. I wore their traditional clothes. I ate meals with them. I worked in the fields with them. And I became a member of their community. At the end, when I finally did leave, I remember my mom in the village, my Bamayo. I was crying, which was a taboo, and she took her hands that were like so rough and like they felt like sandpaper because she's such a hard worker, and she was just like drying my tears. And that moment, it just made me feel like I really was a part of this family. So now I am a social worker. I'm in child welfare at the moment, but no matter what job I've been doing, it has that same kind of recipe of I'm in a community and trying to build the community up and to bring those strengths together.
How we were brought to respect each other, and the idea of equity, the idea of everyone having a say, I've taken with me as a social worker. I would say that Prairie Hill has allowed me this propensity to see someone else's point of view. You're always kind of questioning your place in the world and how others see you and how you might be seeing them in relation to what you both are going through, as we interact. That's super important to me, is to get in someone else's shoes, to be empathic. And I think those traits are really fostered at Prairie Hill.
Being a Waldorf student really allowed me to immerse myself and follow different tracks of interest in my own life. Mr. Romer always had the phrase, once a task is once begun, never leave it till it's done. And I think having that work ethic has really helped me stick through with tough projects and see them through. And the other one I always think of a lot is boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. And I really try to bring that to projects that I work on and just to my life as a whole. And I think having a dose of boldness in your career just goes really far these days.
It's a school that is kind of timeless. It's a place where children can actually be children outside of the trappings of mass consumerism.
I think one of the most important things that Prairie Hill instills in us is a confidence and a curiosity to push forward, even when we find a challenge.
Prairie Hill is such a special place because it's able to foster individuality and community at the same time.
Children are allowed to think in ways that aren't immediately condemned by peers, by the media, by whatever social influences.
Every child is an integral part of the community, and every family is welcome to bring their gifts.
The education you get there, it's a lot more than just book smarts.
Teaching, learning through play and through experience in a way that is beyond desk and chair is so important for our children. It's part of the pedagogy, that you learn through experience and you learn through play.
You don't use a device to learn from. It's mostly the teacher teaching you verbally and through pictures they drew themselves.
You learn so much more than just arithmetic and math and science, and still learn all that stuff, but it's in such a different environment that it really sinks in.
I think one thing that holds people back from appreciating Waldorf education is their concern that their kids aren't making the benchmarks that we are told by public education and by some of the rhetoric around accountability that our kids need to make. What we're doing is we're building a foundation for our kids.
One of the most common misconceptions about Waldorf is that it is not strong in the sciences or math. My brother Ezra is an engineer, an electrical engineer. He went to Waldorf for 8 years.
What it did for me and for a lot of people who I know who've gone through that sort of system is really make people whole and see and make people self-aware to the point where they understand, like, if I was in that person's shoes, how would I want to be treated? And I think that's the biggest thing about Waldorf education is how we can look at ourselves and figure out our own talents and how we can bring that together to make our family stronger.
I'm working on a book that's coming out this fall that's called The Power of Onlyness. And it really talks about how we need more of that in our world, both recognizing that we all have individual power and uniqueness, but also that we need people around us to help us foster that. And we're not all just little bots plugged into a computer doing our work, but we really need to connect to the communities that help us grow and push us. As soon as I was reading that book, I immediately thought of Prairie Hill, and I feel lucky because I don't think that there are a ton of those communities in the world, but I think if I had to put one forth, it would be a place like Prairie Hill.
As a prospective parent looking at Prairie Hill Waldorf School, I would say to them that I really doubt you'd regret it, because I think it's a huge investment in a child's future at such a critical point in time.
You're going to get a lot more than just a smart kid. They're going to come out smart. They're going to come out knowing all the basics, things you need to know, but there's just so much more culture and experience that you get from that.
Go to the school. That's what I would want people to do. I have a lot of friends who have young children right now that are starting to explore schools. So I tell them, I can tell you everything about Waldorf education, but just step into the school and you will fall in love with it. So my parents drove by Prairie Hill and they said, don't judge a book by its cover. And they stepped into the school and they didn't want to leave. I am so grateful for that, because I would have rathered my parents pay for my Waldorf education than my college education, because that had that much of an influence on my life.
I want to wish Prairie Hill happy birthday, and I also want to wish my mom a happy having been with Prairie Hill since the beginning. And I think one of the most beautiful parts about Waldorf is the people who build it up, and I see my mom as one of those pillars.
Happy birthday, Prairie Hill.
Happy birthday and blessed to be your coming year.
Today is your birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to Prairie Hill and to everyone who's there celebrating tonight. I wish I could be there.
Thank you so much for helping me become who I am today in ways that I'm not even aware of.
Happy birthday, Prairie Hill. Keep on trucking.
I still remember seeing the assembly song, The Sun Is in My Heart. And the sun still is in my heart, and I hope that it continues with Prairie Hill for 30 more years.
Happy birthday just for you. Happy birthday, may your dreams come true. And when you blow the candles out, there's one light left aglow. That's the love light in your heart, where you go. Happy birthday, Prairie Hill. Happy birthday, Prairie Hill.